there's one incident that I refer to quite openly when we were working like at a minimum sort of 15-hour days. And it was like the biggest deal in the history of the company. So I had no choice. I just had to make it happen. And we'd finished this and everything, my whole world just suddenly came crashing down because the adrenaline stopped pumping. I couldn't breathe. So I was on my way to work and I got to London Bridge Station and I stood there and I had this enormous panic attack and I just froze, and there were like swarms of people rushing past me, and every person that touched me was just, I just flinched and I just felt like my whole body was this big raw nerve.
My name is Paul Harvey and this is Life, Passion and Business. We're about helping you explore, finding your passion for life and the work that you do. But it's so much more than that. It's about finding clues to the big life questions. What does it mean to be successful? What is the meaning of life? If you're looking for more, then join me on this journey where together we will discover through interviews, tools and tips how to live life full of meaning, passion and purpose. Hello and welcome to the show. Could a donut obsession make you thin? Well, depends. Joeseph is a former DJ and burned out finance executive with an appreciation of donuts. Now, she kept the donut bit but dumped the rest by turning her passion into a profession. She was the woman with the capacity to commit and focus on a goal, as a high-powered business executive with an ability to make stuff happen. It was all about getting the deal done. If that meant 16-hour days or finishing that last email while busting for a pee, that is what Alex did. Do you know, it's strange, isn't it? We are the only creatures on the planet that will destroy our health in order to gain wealth, only to spend that wealth to find health again. So the long hours in banking and the constant stress took their toll, and Alex reached the place of burnout. Being a workaholic was destroying her body, her health, and her relationships. It was those feelings of helplessness that became the driving force behind her need to change. Now, throughout her journey of stress and work addiction and poor health, it was her need to find a workable diet that started the journey. That interest led her to become a qualified nutritionist. But it was more than just food. We all know what we should eat, but often make poor choices. Alex went on to explore the thinking behind food choice and became a self-confessed neuroscience geek. Gone is the high-powered business executive. Joeseph did the exciting midlife career change. Her career and current mission is to help people by showing them how to shift the weight, plus see the return to health and sanity. More importantly, it's about how to stay that way for good. Her superpower is the how and the why, teaching people that the real success is in the mind. I hope you enjoy the conversation with Joeseph. Welcome to Life, Passion and Business. I'm delighted today to be with Joeseph. Now, she's a weight loss coach and a behaviour change expert. Gosh, I need to put my teeth back in today. Thank you for being on the programme, Alex. It's delightful to have you here today.
Hi, Paul. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you because you were in the event I had a couple of weeks ago, Living Beyond the Change. And this isn't me talking. There was a piece of video at the beginning and Alex asked me to cut it out. And there's Alex pulling a funny face before she started speaking. And I thought it was so funny. I just had to leave it in, which was a bit mean, really. But
you are so naughty. I still can't believe that you did that. But you're right. Actually, to be fair, that face that I pulled and what I did, that is just so me. So yeah, why not?
So Alex, tell me a little bit more about yourself. How did you get to where you are? How did you get to become this weight loss coach?
Oh gosh. I mean, you and I have talked about this before, where I laugh about the fact that I'm a little bit of a cliche because I was the, busy, high-powered executive working in banking, working all hours that God sends, and basically just operating on adrenaline and running at 100 miles an hour every single day. And of course, my health took a back seat, and I burnt out pretty badly. There were some real low points during that time. And as
the Dalai Lama says humans are the only species that will spend their time making money, then spend their money getting their health back.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? That whole time doing that actually felt so wrong to me. And it's quite interesting. It's a really good point to bring up right now, given what you set out to achieve with this podcast, because back then I was always like, what is the point in this? What is the meaning of this? I would be sitting in this office, and because I'm a bit OCD, and because I was always terrified of failing, and I always wanted to be a big success, and I always wanted to do the best I could do, I pushed myself really hard. But I always sat there going, what the hell am I doing? Like, I'm just making money for an organization. I'm helping other organizations make money. This can't be everything there is to life. So it just didn't add up for me. And you've probably heard me say this before, and I say this to clients frequently, that people often don't change till it's much harder not to change, till you hit some kind of crisis point. And I hit that crisis point, and I basically had no choice but to sort out my health. And having gone down the traditional medicine route, for which I still have an inordinate amount of respect, it just wasn't quite enough to help me sort everything out.
When you say your health, what was it? What was happening to you?
Well, I had really bad stomach problems, and I'd been kind of in and out of doctors and hospitals and stuff like that. And they were making me really unwell, and nobody could quite work out exactly what was happening. And it got to a point where I had these bloody lesions inside my stomach. So they looked like bloody grazes that you would have on your arm, like an open wound inside my stomach. And I finally stumbled across this amazing Icelandic doctor. He was quite weird. He was a bit of a character, but he was really direct, which actually works for me. And I sat in his office one day, and he said, look, we've looked at this, and we've looked at that, and we've looked at the other. And he said, how are your stress levels? And I said, well, yeah, they're probably not that great. And, we talked about a few things, and I could see his eyes widening as I was telling him about my lifestyle. And he very kindly and gently asked if I'd be willing to go and see a psychologist, because he said, I'd like to look at, anxiety and potentially depression. And I said, yeah, I'm sure, why not? So off I went to this guy's office, and I took the test, and as I'd expected, my depression was fine. But he said, yes, your anxiety levels are what we would call off the chart. and he described this sort of very vivid imagery to me, which still sticks in my head today. He said, you know how a swan floats and swims, don't you? He said, they look very calm and serene on the surface, and then their legs are paddling frantically and furiously underneath. He said, that's what you're like. And that was the beginning of my kind of transformation, because I just thought, yeah, okay, I really need to sort this out, or I'm going to end up in a much, much worse situation.
And I guess, stress produces cortisol and all sorts of bits and pieces. And I guess if you produce that much of it, it's probably poisonous to your system. So your stomach lesions are probably related to something that you're producing and poisoning yourself.
Yeah, I mean, some sort of, inflammation in the body, it will impact all sorts of things. Like you say, you're overproducing cortisol, you're constantly in that fight or flight state, and you're never meant to be in that state for a prolonged period of time. What's meant to happen is you're in that state, the cascade of hormones gets triggered to get you out of that state and return back to balance. But I was just constantly in that state, and it was the norm for me, so I didn't even realize it was bad.
So what happens? Because I mean, this is life threatening, really. I know it doesn't seem it, but if you carry this on forever, the body just goes no, and something breaks. Yeah. Which happens to people. We know, we've seen this all the time. People will end up with something breaking, and it causes a life change. So this was a warning for you, I guess.
Yeah, and I was overweight at the time as well, and I was actually, unbeknown to me still back then, I was actually also suffering from binge eating disorder, which was one of the causes of me being overweight. So I ended up working with a psychologist primarily on the anxiety, and the binge eating thing sort of came out of the woodwork at the same time. So I worked on healing that, but at the same time, I wanted to do something about my weight. I'd been headhunted for a different job, and actually, much as I loved my current company and the people and the job I was doing, I thought, I have to go. I just have to go, because I'd set this precedent. There was this way of operating, and I just couldn't unwind that. I was this go-to person when, even when I was working 15-hour days on a deal, they'd come to me and say, oh, look, can you please do this because nobody else can? And I'd always say yes. And I couldn't become the no person at that point, because they were so used to me being like this. I thought the only way that I can get out of this is actually by leaving and changing the context around me.
So were you passionate about this job at all? Was there any passion in this job? What was the driver?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I was truly passionate about the job. I was passionate about being really good and doing really well and meeting goals and achieving and succeeding and not failing.
Right.
And it helped also that it was a lovely organization. It was, I'm happy to say it because I have only good things to say about them, as Northern Trust. And they are a wonderful organization. They have some brilliant people and really lovely people. And I still think of all of them with very fond memories on it, and I'm in touch with a lot of them. But I'd sort of made this rod for my own back in a way. I can't really blame it on them, but yeah, finance and security services and what I was doing, it wasn't my true passion.
So, all right, you've got this problem. You're unpacking it. You've now been headhunted somewhere else.
Yeah. So I take the job, and with it I get 3 months gardening leave. So 3 months gardening leave was exactly the perfect time to stop.
Is that because you had a 3 month contract and they don't want you in the building anymore?
Yeah, because I worked in a sales and business development role, and it was in a competitive environment, and I was running huge kind of global deals that were worth tens of millions of dollars and stuff. They freeze you out of the market effectively, because I went to a direct competitor.
Right.
So my notice period was 3 months. But because I had such a good relationship with people, they were really sweet, and they let me have 2 days just to walk around the office and say goodbye to everyone and tie up a few loose ends, and then off I went. And I was on sort of paid leave for 3 months basically.
Wow.
And it was and it started in May. So I had,
oh wow. Oh, talk about perfect.
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. And I'd not long got back from quite a long holiday in California as well. So so that's the California holiday had given me time to really think about what I wanted and be sure. And then this happened, and I just slowed down. I stopped and I slowed down, and I signed up for this 6-week transformation program as well. So all I did was I pottered around, and I'd go for lunch with someone. I would go to the gym. And because I had my headspace available again, I got really focused on what do I want to do to become fit and healthy. And I took a great interest in food. Nutrition, fitness, health, everything. I would go outside as much as possible, walk in the sunshine. I walked everywhere. I worked out multiple times a week. I ate great food, and you know what? I lost the weight and I felt amazing. I even ended up healing an old kickboxing injury that had been nagging me for a long time, because I strengthened my body so much, and I just got literally obsessed with it. And in the back of my mind, I was always thinking, I just wonder if I could do this. I'd love to do this. I really want to do this as my career, but don't be so ridiculous. That's just crazy. But yeah, I guess as time went on, my obsession grew. And with the next job that I had, although I kind of ended up being in that role for, I think it was 3 years maybe. I ended up having a break from that when I had my first child.
Mm-hmm.
And it was when I was due to go back from maternity leave that I realized I just could not go back full time because I wanted to be around for the kids.
Yeah.
And there were other things that had happened in my family that were quite serious, which meant I needed to be around for someone else. So I asked to go back part-time. It wasn't possible. And so I just turned around to my husband and I just said, I think this is the time. I think I should do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy. I was 36 and I was basically ditching a very well-paid, successful career to completely retrain and do something totally different. I mean, it just felt insane, but so right at the same time.
But that's the point. Things feel right, don't they? And that's it. And it's like that inner guidance. It's like that thing that says, no, now's the time.
Yeah. It was just like, my hand was forced in a way because going back full time was just not an option.
Mm.
And I'm really glad it happened now.
Mm.
It was absolutely the best thing that could have happened to me, even though at the time I was a little bit upset that, I couldn't go back part time. Now I'm so happy, and I truly believe that everything happens for a reason.
Damn, we see that so often, don't we? I know so many people that lose their job or do something, and they kind of so pissed about it, and then 6 months later they're in a fantastic position and go, God, I could still be there, and yet I'm here.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, and if it's still, and I would say for my listeners, look, I know sometimes it can be shit. If it's still shit, yeah, but it's not. The game's not over. That's the point, isn't it? Really. I mean, it may be shit in this moment in time, but if you look beyond that, there's always something happening beyond it.
Yeah, always. You're so right, definitely.
But when we look at this point as an end point, it does look shit. Often it looks shit. I mean, my wife has an illness at the moment. She has Parkinson's, and last week she's just gone to medication, and last week was a terrible week. She was so ill last week.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, it is what it is, but she was so ill last week, and this week the medication's kicked in, and it's a different woman.
Amazing. Yeah.
Now, if you'd have asked her last week the future of Parkinson, she'd have said to you, "I just want to die."
Oh,
you asked her this week the future, she said, "I can now see some light."
Yeah.
The difference a week makes.
Yeah. It can even sometimes be a day, can't it?
Well, it can, yes, it can. So yeah, it's interesting the journey that we're all on. So, all right, it sounds like you went back and did some training and started a new career at 36.
Yeah, I did indeed, yes. And I've somehow managed to make it work, which is amazing, which I'm happy about.
Well, you had probably had quite a good advantage because you probably moved in quite good circles in terms of the career path that you actually had. You probably knew some interesting people or people who would need your services in some way, particularly if they're all stressed out like you were. Yeah. Have you pulled in many people from your previous iterations?
I have had some clients actually that are people I've worked with, but probably not as many as I could or should. Yeah, which is a great thing because it's an untapped opportunity. I think there was an element of me having to work out exactly who I was helping and exactly what I was doing. Yeah, because the problem is when you're a qualified nutritionist or a weight loss coach, you can help anyone, and that's a bit of a problem in a way. So it was such an eye-opener for me thinking about the whole niching down thing and marketing your business. I mean, it was just mind-blowing when I realized what I had to learn to do. So I think, all of those things have recently fallen into place for me. And it's thanks to people like, I have a wonderful business coach, John Cusick, who he's just got one of the most phenomenal brains out there, where he seems like he's so easygoing, laissez-faire, and then all of a sudden, boom, these absolute gems come out of his brain. So he's really helped me.
I know John, he's a nice guy.
Yeah. So he's just helped me so much to drill into exactly what I love, who I want to help, why I'm the right person to help them. So that's been quite transformational for me. So now I'm kind of ready to hit that
I'd also imagine that your previous experience, I mean, if you were dealing in massive money deals and and dealing with, you're not fazed by talking to different people. There'd be a lot of crossover from the fact that you're pretty confident to talk to people about what you do and how you can help. So, and that is a lot of people have struggled with confidence over doing this sort of stuff.
But I have too. I really have, because I used to deal with CEOs, CFOs, COOs of, FTSE 100 companies. I used to deal with our management board, really senior people, our CEO on a day-to-day basis, and it was no problem. But I wasn't selling myself. It wasn't me. It was someone else's business. It was someone else's product. So yes, I struggled with confidence myself until recently, when I got really clear on what I wanted to do and who I would be serving. And now I've got that clarity in my head. The clarity is coming out in my messaging, and the inquiries are flooding in. And, I even say things to people like, yeah, I'm not the cheapest. And they'll go, yeah, I don't care. If I want to work with someone, it's you. So it's, it's all sort of starting to fall into place in that sense, which is brilliant. And it's making me so happy that I'm really helping the right people that need my help, and I can help them.
So where's the passion in this for you? How have you, what makes you passionate about it?
People.
Right.
It's just, if I could sum it up with one word, it's people. I've always been obsessed with behavior change and psychology from a young age. Mm-hmm. And I'm quite sad in many ways that I didn't study psychology at university. I always had this desire to understand why someone was doing something, what was making them do that, why did they do that, how. And I always had quite an analytical brain that needed to understand why something was the way it was. So if a book said to me 2 + 2 = 5, I couldn't just accept it. I'd be like, that doesn't make sense. Why? How could it do that? And some people can just accept what's put in front of them. I can't. So yeah, that kind of fascination started then, and I've now managed to put this other passion that I developed about nutrition and health together with the behavior change and psychology side. Because when I put that, when I added that real focus into my business, really helping people to change their behavior and their habits, that's what I found started really making the difference. And I could almost guarantee results for my clients when I started doing that. So it's people, and it's how they behave, and it's, helping them to understand how they behave. Because even though we're born with a brain, all of us, nobody gives you that manual to how it works.
That is crazy, isn't it? That thing is that we all have to find our own triggers, our own things. And it's that's what I don't get about education. Why isn't education working on teaching a child how to use their brain?
Yes.
That's what I just don't get it. We try filling kids with useless bloody facts.
Yeah.
If we could teach them how to use their brain, they wouldn't need to sort in facts. They could just find them out themselves.
Yeah, but it's like, is it really going to enrich their life going forward, knowing, when William Conqueror did whatever?
No, but what I'm getting is we don't need those facts, do we? If we were taught how to learn, taught how to understand our learning style, our techniques, how our brain works, it would make so much more sense. I love the idea that you are, sorry to cut into you there, but I love the idea that you're a nutritionist, but you have taken the psychology about it, which is really valuable. And I can really see the difference in that, because, I meet nutritionists. I've spoken to nutritionists who can give you suggestions about a diet. But actually keying that into the person's psyche is actually quite valid, I think, and that's very clever.
It's so important, and that's one of the first things that I look at. And sometimes I say to people before they do my intake questionnaire, there's like a pre-consultation questionnaire before our very first session, and it's very comprehensive. It will ask all sorts of questions. They're not difficult, it doesn't take a long time, but it will cover so many different elements of their whole life. And I have to sort of say, just humour me, just answer them. There is a reason.
I'd like to do your questionnaire. I'd like to do your questionnaire to see what comes out.
I'm more than happy to send it to you, Paul. You can have a look. But I sort of like, I don't know, I turn things upside down, inside out, back to front, and really try and understand them as a person.
Yeah.
Because then when we're looking at what are the things that they can implement or change, I'm trying to always look for the things that are the easiest, so that they are confident they can do them, they actually succeed in doing them. They are things that help them make a difference, and it motivates and inspires them to keep doing more.
That's what it's, yeah, and that's what it does, isn't it? It holds them to task, which is all that's important, really, isn't it? I mean, what is shocking to most people, I don't think people realize this. A friend of mine, his daughter has just qualified as a doctor. She's been training for 7 years, and she did one afternoon on nutrition.
I know, yeah, my little sister.
She did literally 3.5 hours on human nutrition. That was
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was shocked when I found out about this. My sister has just qualified as a doctor as well. And it's the same thing. I think she said that she had 2 lectures on it or something. So it's absolutely, and everyone thinks that doctors are like the oracle, that they know absolutely everything health related. I do think it's changing now, and I think they are starting to put much more of a focus on nutrition because they understand the link. But it's, even if you look at things that have been going on recently with regards to COVID-19, I just don't, there's been so much that's been underplayed in terms of the obesity risk, what good nutrition, what vitamin D could help achieve. It's all been about, stay 2 meters away, wash your hands, isolate. That's the things we've just heard non-stop. But why have they not sort of tried to focus on the positive things that people could be doing in order to help themselves get through it much better if they do get it?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, nutrition would change a lot of things, wouldn't it? It would, if it was sorted out early, the health service would be alleviated a lot of the problems it does have, because people will be eating properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they don't do that, because that would like to put you out of work. You need to continue.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So tell me, look, let's move on. I love talking to you. This is fun. Success. Let's talk about success. Now, you were following the traditional line, because you clearly had, you'd been very good. You'd done all your studies. You'd done all the things you're supposed to do. Settled down. You'd find a nice job. You done all these bits and pieces, but you recognise it quite working for you. What does success mean to you? Because it obviously doesn't mean the high-powered job in the city anymore.
No, I actually think that back in the days, I would have been one of those people that thought, the whole recognition, wealth, those kind of things meant success, that you were sort of ticking off that list of things that you should be doing. But now it's actually much simpler. It's just actually managing to achieve something that you've set out to do. Right? So I see it as simple as that. And by definition, I think the word success involves that you actually have to reflect on what you've done in relation to a predetermined target. And I teach my clients about this sort of thing quite often, and I definitely walk the walk here as well. So I do it myself. So we talk about big goals, but then we talk about how to break them down into smaller, more manageable, less overwhelming goals. And there's one really good reason for that, because when you have this big goal somewhere in the distant future, which I have those, it seems so far away and it seems so overwhelming, and you almost think that, God, can I actually do this? Will I actually achieve this? And it can be terrifying, and it can almost stop you from getting there. So if you have smaller goals that you can then, you could do daily goals, you can do weekly ones, you could do milestones on the way to your big goal, whatever it is. As soon as you are succeeding, then you feel inspired, you feel happy, you feel motivated. So for me, it's really important to keep reminding myself that I'm succeeding. So I will set little goals for myself, just like I've started running recently, and it might be something simple as I want to do 3 runs this week, and so if I manage that, yay, that's a sort of tick for success. Or it could be something as simple as a client a client has a goal, and there are some things that they actually might be afraid of and they might think they can't overcome. And then I get a little message from them saying, oh my God, I can't believe it. I've lost this much this week, and actually it's been really easy. I can't quite believe that. That's a success tick for me, because we've managed to overcome a big obstacle for them, as well as helping them move towards their goal. So that's another success. Parenting, right? So parenting, being a good parent is an important goal for me. You know, I didn't have kids lightly. I waited until I was a bit older because I wanted to make sure I took it seriously, because I'm putting, you know, new people into the world, and they are what I am creating at the moment, because I'm their biggest influence along with my husband, right? So they don't give you an assessment for how you're doing as a parent. Like, that doesn't exist. You don't sit there and go to a parent evening where they tell you whether you're being a good parent, right?
Oh, I'm sure teachers have a viewpoint, whether you're a good parent
I'm sure. But you get what I mean. You don't sit down with your kids or your teachers and they tell they score you.
You don't get marked for it, do you?
No. But if you listen to your kids, they're actually giving you feedback all the time. And there are certain things that come out when I'm talking to my son, and I just think, yeah, I'm doing a good job here. Because it happened the other night, for example, I'd stopped him from doing something that he wanted to be doing, which was hanging off the loo and off a bathroom cabinet like Spider-Man. So he wasn't very happy with me because he wants to be Spider-Man. And he got quite annoyed with me. And I tried to explain to him why he couldn't do that. And I gave him a cuddle. And then he turned around and he looked at me. He said, "Mummy, even when I'm angry with you, you're still my best friend and I still love you." And something like that, I kind of go, I'm doing okay.
You're doing all right. You're certainly doing all right.
There are, of course, other days when I think I'm massively failing as a parent, like who doesn't? But, you know, I'm far from perfect. But when things like that happen and, you know, unprompted, I just think, yeah, I'm doing okay. So, you know, to me, success is just so multifaceted. There are so many different ways you can measure it. And I guess one of the things probably that would qualify success for me is not just achieving something, but it's achieving something that's challenging.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I need to say this because I'm going to blow my own trumpet, but I ran 10K in 54 minutes this morning.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. Well, I've done it fast before, but not for a couple of years.
That is very fast.
And 54 minutes of me for 10K was pretty good. That was 9 minutes up on. I ran 10K on Monday.
Yeah.
1 hour 3, and did 51 minutes a day.
Wow, what made you go so much faster? What do you think?
Well, I chose the route basically. I didn't do too many hills.
Okay, yeah, that helps.
I thought to myself, well, look, let's be kind to myself and pick a route that I know is relatively flat, because I do choose some bastard hills when I normally run. But the weather was perfect, no wind, flat, relatively flat. There are some hills, but yeah. So that was my success for today.
Well, you should be very proud of that. It was very good.
So look, let's move on to contribution. This is the thing. What is your contribution to the world?
I guess one of the things I'm really trying to do, and this is going to sound like a bit icky in a way, you're just going to go, oh, it's so like cliched, but hopefully if I explain it,
world peace. Then you want world peace, do you?
Not kind of. I kind of do, but you know what? I do want to make the world a better place, but it's probably in a slightly different way. I've worked really, really hard over the past probably 5 to 6 years to become as kind and empathetic as I can. Mm-hmm. Because I strongly believe that in the universe, we all play a part, right? So there's millions and zillions of people. And I do genuinely think that if people were happier, the world would be a much better place. So actually, I just want to help people be happier. And I think one of the biggest ways is to hear people, to really hear them and to try and understand them. And I sort of try and do that now, I guess mostly through my work, then also with my children and just with people I encounter. So when someone does something bad to me nowadays, I try and understand them. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean I'm a doormat or a punch bag, but I just try and understand where that person is coming from. And clients will come to me quite often and they'll go, you're going to think I'm really stupid because, and they'll say something like, I did Slimming World. And straight away, the first thing I say is, you're not stupid. And actually, this is the really good thing about Slimming World. They've got this amazing kind of community element to it, which is very helpful when you're trying to achieve something that's quite difficult and you have this support and, you know, And quite often I actually hear an almost audible sigh of relief. So being kind and empathetic and actually trying to see someone else's point of view, I think can have quite a huge impact. And I think it also comes from wanting to give people hope, wanting to make them feel like they can be happy and they will be happy. And I think it first happened when, if I go back to that time in my life that was really difficult and I was really not looking after myself and everything was pretty bad, there's one incident that I refer to quite openly when I'd just finished working on a huge deal that had taken, it was over a year, and we were working like at a minimum sort of 15-hour days. There were not one day, actually, there was a handful of days when I actually worked for 21 hours solid. And I was literally sitting at my desk at one point, crossing my legs because I needed to wee and I couldn't, because I had to get something to someone else because we had this client deadline. And it was like the biggest deal in the history of the company. So I had no choice. I just had to make it happen. And we'd finished this and everything, my whole world just suddenly came crashing down because the adrenaline stopped pumping. I finally came up for air. I took a breath and I realized that actually I couldn't breathe. So I was on my way to work and I got to London Bridge Station and I stood there and I had this enormous panic attack and I just froze, and there were like swarms of people rushing past me. You know what London Bridge is like at rush hour. And every person that touched me I just flinched and I just felt like my whole body was this big raw nerve. And I couldn't breathe, and eventually I pulled myself together enough just to turn around and walk back to the train to get on the train and go home. And I literally just got on the train and I went home and I sat there and my phone was like ringing off the hook. I didn't tell anyone, I didn't answer my phone, I didn't speak to anyone for a number of hours, and I just had this complete breakdown. And I just felt so desperately hopeless and awful that I just want to do anything I can to sort of help people who are in that situation, to give them hope and just to say there is a way out and you can do this and you can look after yourself. So I guess that's one of the most important thing. And the other thing would be, I guess, just, you know, raising the best kids that I possibly can, because again, it's going back to that thing that everyone plays a part in the world, where it's a bit like an object is made up of zillions of atoms, right? And if even something happens to one of them, that can have a big impact on the shape or, you know, constitution of that object. And that's what the world is like to me. So, and when I say the best possible kids, I'm not talking about the smartest or the brightest or the, you know, most successful. I'm talking about kind and caring and conscious of other people. You know, so when I hear things from nursery like, oh, when someone's crying, Jack is the first person to go and run over and give them a hug and, you know, stroke them and say it's okay. I'm happy that, you know, nice. That we're kind of heading in the right direction, basically.
Nice answers, lovely. Yeah, contribution is an interesting one, really. It's like we all have something to give to the world, and it's a new question. It's not always been in the podcast. But I recognized it was something that was needed. It was like, because it's this, that's why I put it in, really, because it was a great question. So
yeah, it is.
What is the one question that I haven't asked you that I should have done?
That you should have done?
What is the one question that I haven't asked you?
Well, or do you mean the one that that I want people to ask me?
Well, it's the same thing, isn't it, really? It's that one question that you want me to ask you.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps not necessarily from you, but I would want people out there to ask me, why can't I lose weight? So because that ties in with what I do. But the reason why I want them to ask me that is because I feel so strongly and passionately about the answers that they are given. I am sick and tired of basically arrogant fit pros saying, well, it's easy, it's just calories in, calories out, you're just eating too much and you're not moving enough. I'm so sick and tired of these poor people that feel like they are a failure and like they're stupid and like they can't seem to implement this thing that's meant to be so easy to do. So I wish to God that anyone that has struggled with losing weight would just ask me that and say, why can't I lose weight? Because then I can show them that they're not stupid and it isn't as simple as that, and it's not easy and it is difficult, but equally it doesn't have to be complicated, and you can do it if you just know how to do it.
Well, as you say, psychology, food is sustenance.
Exactly.
Food is connected right to the very base of our soul and our core.
Yeah.
And it's the one thing that's used our entire life. When we're young, it's used as a reward by a lot of people. Yeah. And so there is so much tied around this idea of sustenance and food. It ain't surprising that people struggle with it.
And there are so many external influences that people often, they don't even recognize, because they almost become like a subconscious influence. It can be anything from a silly little thing that your partner says to you, to your religion, to actual like food intolerances that people have, to social, where food that you have at parties, like when it's the done thing to eat birthday cake, to you go to someone's house for dinner and you might perhaps find it rude not to eat what's put in front of you, or not to eat something that's offered to you. At work, there's, it's someone's birthday and people buy donuts or whatever it is, right through to marketing on TV, or walking into a supermarket and the way that food is organized in order to promote certain things they want you to buy more of. So I think people just don't realize that they've got so many of these influences all around them that actually do make it quite challenging. And, the human brain hasn't evolved to catch up with the modern day food environment. No. And that's one of the things that makes it really tricky. But that's one of the things that I focus on, is to help people understand that difference and how they can kind of reduce that gap between the two.
I can see why you want people to ask you that question.
Yeah, because I feel so annoyed. I hate it. Like whenever I see anyone going, if someone's like on a weight loss forum or something, and they're like, oh, I just, I'm really struggling. I haven't lost any weight these past 2 weeks. And all these people jump in and go, it's easy. It's just because you've been eating too much. And it's like, yes, so maybe they have, but why have they been eating too much? What's causing that? And how do you help them to overcome that?
Yeah. Well, it's, as you say, there's so much to this, and the world is structured around getting people to eat more. That's what the industry does. So that's it, really. Yeah.
Did you know they even have people at food companies that test what we call the bliss point? So they test crisps and things, so the exact shape, exact perfect curve, the exact perfect crunch and the perfect flavor to hit and maximally hit what they call the bliss point, so that when you crunch into it, you're just like, hallelujah, this is amazing.
Well, of course. I mean, Pringles being a great example. You can't eat one.
Yeah. Once you pop, you can't stop. That's it.
Yeah. And what a great thing to say. They're giving you permission with that phrase. Once you pop, you can't stop.
Yeah.
You have permission to eat the packet.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant, isn't it? So if people would like to ask you that question themselves, how would they go about doing that?
what if they'd like to talk to me?
Yes, absolutely.
I think the easiest way is they can have a look around my website. There's a contact form on there. There's various ways about how I work, client testimonials a lot, and it is thealexjoeseph.com. Okay. And you can find me pretty much anywhere under the Alex Joeseph. So my Facebook page is that, my Instagram handle is that. I also use my personal Facebook profile quite a lot now for both friends and for putting out just sort of free content that people might find useful. So people are always welcome to connect with me on Facebook. I pretty much accept anyone until they start acting like a weirdo, and then they're on the block list.
Well, that's where they belong.
Yeah.
So, okay, all those links we'll sort out. They'll be on the podcast website underneath the player as usual. So we reach our final question, which is the big question. And it's like, now, you know, I say this the same everything, but I like the way I say this. I'm never going to change. You know, like humans are born to this planet as animals like any other, and we eat shit and die. Yeah. But only humans are arrogant enough to think there's a meaning or a purpose to it all. So what do you think the meaning and purpose to it all is for you?
If I'm completely honest, you know what? I'm turning 40 soon, and I still don't really know. I still don't really know what the meaning of life is. I used to torture myself a lot about how I added value in the world, particularly when I was in my corporate job. You know, like I said earlier, I used to sit there going, what the hell is the point in this? Mm-hmm. So I think, funnily enough, that torturing myself actually disappeared the day that my son was born, because that was suddenly I had this just instinctive purpose, like I said, to be the best possible parent to him. And now I have a daughter, so it's, you know, to both of them, and to make them into the best people possible. But I guess with the job I now do, I never have that doubt anymore. There's never like, what am I doing? I remember thinking back to this huge deal that was done at my old organization, and everyone used to talk about it, but I can't tell you who the person was that ran that deal. I don't know. I know the client. I know inside out what their operating model was like. I know what they wanted. I know their testimonials. I could quote them for you, but I don't know who the person was that was responsible for that deal. And that always made me think, God, like a person doing all this hard work can just so easily be forgotten. And I think one of the nice things that with what I do now is that I can genuinely, hand on my heart, say that I literally do help people change their lives. And that is just the most amazing feeling in the world. I suddenly feel like, yes, there is a point to me being alive and doing what I do. And it quite frequently people say it in their reviews. And you said to me earlier on, you want to make the world a better place. So surely if you are helping people lose weight and feel happy about themselves, you are making the world a better place. Well, it often leads to much more than that. And that's what makes it so wonderful, is they get this confidence in this one area of their life, and it transpires that that's actually been holding them back in other more important areas. So they suddenly find this motivation to propel their business to the next level, or they put themselves forward for that promotion at work. Or indeed, it could be in the other way, where actually they find that in a really awful relationship that has been destroying them, and they suddenly think, no, I can get out of this and I can do better than that. Mm-hmm. So it's a pretty remarkable thing that, you know, you act as a catalyst quite often for much greater change. Sounds perfect to me. It is. It's pretty amazing. I feel very, very lucky that I'm doing this, to be honest. And that's all we can ask for, isn't it, really, in life? That's all we can ask for. Yeah. So Alex Joeseph, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I feel generally really thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and I'm sure we will talk again sometime. So thank you so much for being with me, and I wish you all the best. Thank you so much, Paul. I really appreciate it. Cheers. Bye. And that was Life, Passion and Business with Paul Harvey and Alex Joeseph. If you would like to connect with Alex, you can find her on Facebook, Instagram and at her website, thealexjoeseph.com. These links, as usual, will be underneath the podcast player on the website at lifepassionandbusiness.com. So tell me, how is your focus?
With all that has been going on lately, mine has been a little off. Distraction has been a theme, and that is unusual for me. I'm pretty good at getting stuff done and helping others do the same. That is why I offer the Turbo Coaching Facility, which you can find on the website at Life, Passion and Business. You see, look, I digress when the subject was focus. I'm currently working on a short book on the issue and will shortly have a free 5-day mini course, so look out for it. It's going to be more about all of this on the Sunday Reflection. And that brings this week to a close, so thank you so much for your time and attention, and I will catch you later. All the best.